There are sales leaders who can make magic happen regardless of the market, product, or tech. And that's Atul Agarwal for you. He's done it all from launching new markets to breaking sales records, worked with tech giants like HCL, HP, and Adobe. At Adobe, he was such a force that he made it to their exclusive platinum club not once, but four times. And during the pandemic, while everyone was struggling, he still found a way to crush his numbers. What's really cool about Atul is his unique mix of technical smart. Fun fact, he's an engineer who topped his class, and business instincts. Put him in front of any CXO with any tech solution, and he'll turn it into a story they can't resist. Today on Sales is Cool, we're getting Atul to spill the secrets behind his success. Welcome to the show, Atul.
Thank you so much, Soumya.
Awesome. Are you ready to get into it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you heard the introduction that we gave, Atul. What is something that people would not find on LinkedIn? What would that introduction sound like?
Soumya, that's a very good question. And I was thinking about it. Possibly, as you said, right, a borderline geek, a borderline introvert, and a teetotaler who ended up in sales, right? Actually, jokes about LinkedIn is all about glorification, including my own profile, right? I mean, it's got a string of designations like the CBO and RVP and country head and so on and so forth. But at the heart of hearts, Soumya, I think I'd like to consider myself to be a seller who likes to meet people and forge connects, irrespective of whether you have a team or not, or irrespective of where you reach in your career. I think at the heart of it, if you're not a seller, if you're not fond of connecting with people, I think that's the core muscle you need to have, and that's how I'd like to be called.
That's interesting and kind of gets us to our next question where we'll rewind a little. Do you mind telling us about your first job?
My first job was fresh out of B school. I didn't choose sales or didn't have a very strong inclination that I would want to really pursue sales as a profession to begin with. But I remember my dad, who retired as an exec, he used to tell me that Atul, given a choice, post your B schools, get into sales. And I used to wonder why, right? And he just told me that it'll ground you. The first company on campus when I was doing my B school was an IT company, Indian IT company, which is now a global MNC, and it was known to be the mecca for sales foundations. Right? I mean, I worked with some of the leaders who are CEOs in their own right, right? And I think that stint, right, that really grounded me because when you come out of B school, some have a very idealistic view of life, right? Like when I
Yeah.
came out, I thought that I'm going to walk into a boardroom, for example. You have immaturity, confidence, and I remember my first assignment per se was I was sitting in an office in Mumbai. It was the summers, and a tie was thrown to me, and I was like, "What's this about?" And they said, "You know what? We're going for a meeting to the other end of town, right, New Bombay." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Where's the cab?" They
Yeah.
said, "Are you joking?" So I was shoved into an auto rickshaw. We went to, I still remember, Kurla station. Changed a couple of local trains. I was drenched in sweat, right? So I think that was my baptism by fire in sales to begin
Yeah.
with, right? I mean, the lack of hygiene factors or the discipline or whatever you call it, but gradually you kind of fall in love with it. Yeah. So I think my first job was a sales job, not necessarily by choice, but it was something that I grew into and I started loving it.
Awesome. So that was your initiation into sales and like you called it, baptism by fire. What was like that moment or time during your career when a light bulb went off and you were like, yes, sales could be the career for me? Was it a person or a moment or a particular role?
It was, I still remember that moment where I was doing this particular opportunity with a large corporation based in the tip of South Bombay, Ballard Pier.
Okay.
And this was an incumbent account of a very strong competitor of ours. And I was there with my pre-sales person. We were these young bunch of kids, right, trying to sell something to a very, very sophisticated CIO who had a huge budget. And I don't know what happened, right? Call it luck, call it fate. He liked my face, he liked a persistence, aggression, whatever. But I still remember that meeting where he said that, Atul, I got folks standing outside wearing suits, right? And for some reason, I feel like trusting a bunch of novices like you guys. I don't know whether he meant it as a compliment. But he said, you know what, just step out of this room, meet my EA, she'll take you to the purchase department and they'll punch your PO. And it was around 5 or 6 in the evening that time, Soumya. And I still remember I was out and about in South Bombay till about 9 for no
Wow.
rhyme or reason, just walking around. I went to Leopold Cafe, I went to Marine Drive. That high of it, right? That high of, telling your manager that, hey, you know what, we close this.
Yeah.
It's very different feeling. And more than the glory and the commissions and all that, right? It's about the fact that someone trusted you more than anyone else, in spite of being a stranger, with a decision that could impact their career, right?
Right. Right.
Positively or negatively. So I think that our moment was the joy of winning people's trust when you don't know them, partake their investments, a part of their career moment with you. I think
Right.
that was something that really stood with me.
So, in your own words, right now, Atul, you talked about how it's a tough job,
Yeah.
right? Like getting to that deal closure also means going through a lot of rejections and no's and meetings that don't turn out your way. For you, it was this high. What do you think gets most salespeople out of bed and excited about their job? Do you think everyone is chasing that high, or what is it about sales that makes them want to do it every day?
No, I think so. Look, different people have different motivations, right? And there's no right or wrong out here. Many a times it comes from materialism, also, right? I mean, I know there are a lot of great brands who kind of interview based on how materialistic you are. Uh, Again, different people have different motivations, and there are people who are successful as well in their own right. But for me, I think it's been about, you know, if you are forging connections genuinely, if you like meeting people, if you like understanding their stories, the products will change, the people might change, the companies might change. But, a high is, when you meet someone after, say, 6 or 7 years or more, and the person says, you know what, I remember you had met me, you were a part of this organization, I was there, and we had a great experience. That credibility, right, that you build with people, I think that's something that I think is very critical. And if you do that time and time again, if you have the discipline of doing that time and time again, and the love of doing it,
Yeah.
the money, the success is important. I love it as well.
Right.
But it follows. It's an outcome. It's not the end goal.
Right.
That's how I would put it.
I really like that perspective. I also love the fact that you said how different people come to it with different motivations. So, Atul, you've also, over this long, illustrious career, hired lots of salespeople, right? And you started at a time when the sales tech stack looked very different or non existent to what we see today, right? Where there's something for prospecting, qualifying, lead
Yeah.
generation. But what are those things that have stayed consistent over the years that you still look for in a sales professional when you're hiring them?
Uh, that one thing that's worked for me during the course of improving on my own hiring skills is keeping it simple, right? Because I typically like to begin my interviews by asking a very standard question, and then I kind of go into the layers of it, which is, please tell me your story, right? Starting from your roots. Typically, I've seen in a lot of interviews, people talk about, yeah, I was managing this account, this was my last job, and so on. I go all the way back, right? Tell me about your roots, where were you born, your family, if they're comfortable, whatever they can share. And then, your academic background, your growth,
Yeah.
your corporate growth. Why did you make the decisions you made when you switched companies or careers? If you have an entrepreneurship journey or a business journey during the course of your corporate career, what was that about? So I
Right.
think the table stakes for me is if someone is able to articulate their own story in a coherent manner, that's something that I really look for, right?
Okay.
It has to have some structure to it because you are the product, right? You are the one who's pitching yourself. And again, it's a two-way street. I like to share
Yeah.
my own story as well. So that's one thing. And the other thing I like to believe is sales is an art and a science both, but it needs to have discipline, right?
Right.
Work ethic is something that's very critical as far as I'm concerned. So for me, you may not be like the best of extroverts, the best of speakers, but as long as there is a sense of work ethic, there is a sense of drive. I think that's what I look for as well. So in a nutshell, Soumya, for me, it would be your own story and how you articulate it. And the second is if I'm able to gauge some amount of work ethic based on that journey, that is something that kind of has worked for me in the past.
Okay. So Yeah, that's actually so intuitive because the way somebody is articulating their story or selling themselves, if you will, is probably a good proxy of how they would do it to a customer or for a product or service. Uh, Love listening to that. We come to one of the most coveted questions that we like to ask in this episode, which is, Other, do you think sales is cool? And if yes, why?
Oh, I mean, honestly, I've grown into this question, right? Because there was a point of time when I was like, my God, what am I doing, right? And sales has got the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, right? I mean, there are times when you have self doubt. I'm sure we've all heard about the imposter syndrome. But to me, sales is cool because of multiple reasons. One is that it's not a standard 9 to 5 desk job. It's something where you kind of are on the field, right? So if today someone tells me that, hey, you have a standard typical 9 to 5, you have to just be in office, that's something I cannot do or enjoy anymore, right? So that's something that I really love about sales. You're on the field, you're up and about, you're always traveling, you get a vitamin D, right? And how? So that's one key part.
Yeah.
The other part of it is as a salesperson, whether you're a leader, whether you are on the front line, uh, you tend to get great feedback from the field
Yeah.
uh, as a representative of the company. Many a times, and I've seen this in some of the best organizations, when you build a product or an offering, you tend to be very inward focused, right? Whereas, in sales, you actually get to hear real time feedback from some of the best customers in the best industries. It
Right.
helps to tweak the direction of the company, right? In your own small way, because people take feedback, product teams take feedback, right? So that's the second part where you're in the front line, you're getting a reality check for your company, right?
Yeah.
The third thing that comes to my mind is playing a role in getting the revenues, which means in a way you're playing a role in getting salaries for the company, right? You are the one who's at the front line, playing a small part, right, in that. And honestly, all of us work for organizations that are either post IPO, pre IPO. So your finance, your leaders have to report revenue to the street, to investors. So again, as a seller, you play a critical part in that. It's always a sum of each and every individual contribution to that number. So
Wow, that I don't think anybody should feel a little unconvinced of the fact that sales is cool after that answer. Other, we do want to pick your brain about a time that was a period of challenge and also extreme learning, which is the pandemic year, right? It's a time most of us struggled in different roles and trying to find success and still bad for the organizations we worked for. Do you have any learnings or takeaways now that you look back and factors you think contributed to success for you at that time?
I think I had realized on a lighter note that numbers is a part of the game, and the pandemic taught me that in a big way, right? Because suddenly during the pandemic, we stopped traveling for obvious reasons. So all our meetings were typically over Zoom calls or over emails and so on, right? So the people element was kind of taken away. It
Right.
became very mechanical. Obviously, one thing you can't escape in sales are sales forecasts and numbers. So suddenly, sales became a lot about just the numbers, just the forecasting, very tactical or mechanical discussions, right? And that's when I realized that, honestly, sales truly for me, what I meant, right? Coming back to the first point that I made, right? If you are meeting people in person, if you're forging connections, if you are building a relationship with them, uh, that's something that is a true high of sales, right? So
Right.
I think that was a very challenging time, but it also was, in a way, it was a moment that dawned upon a lot of me and my colleagues as well that look, we are in sales not just for the numbers and incentives, but the joy part of it was kind of taken away. I think the joy of traveling, the joy of meeting people in person, that's what I missed. And I think learning was we should not ever stop doing that.
Never lose out on that.
Never
Yeah.
lose touch with that. As a leader, you tend to kind of take a step back. Even today, I tell my team that I want to be in the field, yeah, because it's okay.
Yeah.
You do a lot of admin work as you go up the ladder, but I think being on the field is something that
That's
is the core of this job.
I do want to double click a little bit on that, Atul, and ask you, do you think you've always been somebody who's highly social and extroverted, and that's why I found doing some of these things in sales, like building connections or relationships, easier? Or have you seen people who may not be that extroverted also managing to do a good job?
In fact, I was not, right. I was, as I said, right, I was a borderline geek and a borderline introvert, right. I
Right.
think more of an introvert, because I, as you said, right, I taught my school. I remember my math teacher coming after the 12th post to my house saying that, hey, you know what, you kind of whatever topped the
Oh,
college
wow.
in math, right, in those days. So I was honestly a bit of a geek. I wasn't into public speaking at all, right. I think my first experience of public speaking was in B school when I was suddenly told that, hey, you're roll number two and you're supposed to go and present, in front of a class of whatever 75 odd people. So I don't think it's necessarily a trait to have, but I think over a period of time you kind of I don't think it's like buckets of being an introvert or an extrovert. You tend to have
Right.
layers to your personality. Like if you look at if I give my example in a party, I'll be very out of place.
Yeah.
Right? I'll possibly be in a corner. Hate the attention in a large gathering, but in a one-on-one meeting or in a more intimate gathering, right, you tend to come on your own, right. So that's something that I think is a trait uh, that is not necessary. What I would say is that you might be an introvert but you may speak a lot of sense when you speak.
Yeah.
You can still build a good connect. You don't have to be an extrovert to build a good connect. I've
Absolutely.
seen so many people in my career who are very good speakers, build great connections, but they don't have the sincerity, the work ethic to back it up with
Yeah.
credibility and execution,
Right.
right? And I've seen some of the best sellers who are introverts and the customers love them.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the most extroverted people who kind of fall out after a point of time because they lose the credibility.
Yeah.
So I think, as I said, right, if you have the work ethic and if you have a sense of understanding pain areas and a genuine sense of doing something for your prospects or customers, uh, then I think being an introvert or an extrovert or silent or outspoken person doesn't quite matter.
Doesn't quite matter. That is honestly one of the most nuanced and well balanced perspectives I've heard on this extrovert versus introvert debate in sales. So, really, thank you for that. We're moving on to our final round, which is the rapid fire.
Oh wow,
Uh,
okay, that's
but
surprising.
so you don't have to keep your answers too short. Feel free to talk through some of them, but we would like for you to just say what comes first into mind or instinctively. So you ready?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So first one is your most memorable commission purchase.
Commission purchase, interesting. So, that's the thing about me. I have never linked my commissions to an immediate materialistic gratification.
Okay.
Right. So, I don't like, hey, I got a big fat paycheck one day, so I'm going and splurging on a German car and so on. I think the joy of getting that commission by itself is a high for me.
Right.
So I'm not really splurged. You'll be surprised on a big commission purchase.
Okay.
But it's been a journey where, I've kind of, gotten my, whatever cravings, if I may, for a good lifestyle incrementally completed. So long
Okay.
drawn answer, but never splurged on the basis of a commission.
Awesome. Okay. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people out there. Okay. Second one is your favorite holiday destination, Atul.
Anywhere in India, yeah. So
Really?
I'm a foodie,
Okay.
and I'm a foodie who likes. I'm a vegetarian, right? So options when you travel, right, can tend to get a little limited. Yes, now there are too many, but once upon a time they were, right. So I remember because in my case the job takes you to so many places across the globe, right. Um, and I do believe personally that there is no place like India when it comes to luxury travel,
Yeah.
right. So my favorite holiday destination was very recently where I went for my 40th, right. This was to Udaipur, the Uday
Okay.
Vilas.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a very luxury property as well. I think a decent hotel in India, they really could take good care of you, right? So for
Yeah.
me, any hill station or beach destination in India is a place I would love to go to once in a quarter.
Awesome. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're known for our hospitality. On that note, and it's great that you're a foodie because this one would help. We have a lot of people listening to this from overseas and other countries. What are the three dishes Atul would recommend everyone to try when they come to India?
When they come to India, my God. Look, as I told you, I started my career in Bombay, so you have to have the Indian burger, the vada pav with
The vada pav.
all its condiments. So that goes without saying. I'm a big fan of Gujarati food,
Okay.
which so I like the savory and sweet combinations that come with the typical Gujarati thali.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend, right? That's the second thing. And I think, having been in Bangalore now for the past more than a decade now, I think I just love the various kinds of South Indian cuisines, right? So,
Okay.
I mean, what vada pav is to Bombay is what a simple idli, vada, or a dosa would be in Bangalore.
In Bangalore. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think good traditional food for me, that's my gig.
Yeah. Awesome. You've definitely got some of us hungry who are nearing lunch. But okay, next question for you, Atul. Who would you pick? A rep with a great Rolodex or great perseverance?
Uh, well, that's a great question, right? I think it's situational. Uh, as I said, right, for me, it boils down to, you know, work ethic. So perseverance is important, but perseverance alone can become irritating as well,
Yeah.
right? Bravado alone or a great personality alone many times doesn't help because you may not get, you may not be able to build credibility if it's only hollow, right?
Yeah.
So I think keeping both of these things at par, I think if you've got work ethic, then it kind of balances and cuts across both these kinds of personas.
Awesome. Okay. Brings us to the very last. Jack of all trades or master of one?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, that just got me thinking now. I would kind of, I don't know if there's a middle path, right? I mean, I've always not put things into boxes, right? So I don't think you can be a master of one or you can be master of two or three.
Okay.
You can be more than a jack of multiple trades. So I think I would kind of put it right in the between, right? Because I don't think I'm a master sales professional. I don't think I've mastered technologies wherever I've worked. But mastering the art and science of sales is still work in progress.
Right.
I would kind of put my answer right in between the two. Right, that's how I would put it.
That's what we would expect from you, Atul, making new territories wherever you go. So, making new options here too. Thank you so much for that. It brings us to the end. We had a great time chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed this as well.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I felt like a conversation. Thank you so much.